Before time immortal, the dark and stormy nights arose from creation's primordial nectar. Brought to this world as both muse and master to deliver mortals from misery and the mundane. Welcome, lords and ladies. It's the dark and stormy nights.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Dark and Stormy Nights. I'm Loki.
Odin.
I'm Tyr.
And we've got Odin's chapter this week. What chapter is this? What number? Does anybody know?
Oh, I think we're on 14?
I was about to say
Chapter
that.
14.
14.
That sounds right.
And I don't know. I heard a little bit of it. I didn't hear a lot, so it sounds good. It might be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But before we jump into that, does anybody have anything to talk about? You want any updates? Some upcoming books or word counts that you got going? I mean, I've been cranking out something new.
No, not really. I mean, I've been in a bit of a lull of my writing, but I'm starting to pick back up. I'm feeling a little inspired, but nothing specifically I need to talk about.
I just ordered my book cover, so I'm super excited about that.
That's exciting, yeah.
Mm-hmm. My book one of my series will be coming out probably fall. And then I've been working on book 2. So stop turning me up. I'm fine.
I couldn't hear you. I don't know. I couldn't hear you, so I had to turn you up.
Okay, yeah, I've been
cool.
working on book
And
2.
I know it's not much, but I'm 1,600 words into a new story. Not that I need to write a new story. I should just stick to an old story and keep going.
Nah, you go where the inspiration takes you.
But, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've got several that I'm trying to work on all at once for the same book because
Right.
I'm looking at doing
Which I think that
A
concept works
collection.
great to your ADHD brain.
Well, yeah, because I can
that's
go
how
back
mine
and
works
forth
too.
between them. But the one I'm the furthest into right now is 1,600 words. The other ones are, probably under 1,000 words each.
Right.
But I mean, I guess it's worth saying.
Progress
but
is progress.
Yeah.
you know, this format, when you're not always inspired in writing to meet deadlines and that, it's kind of shown that, even if I'm not in the mood and I start writing, I can get in the mood, I can start liking it, I can produce. But on top of that, you've got, I've always felt writing in a linear fashion was the way to go. That was the way that showed discipline and grind it out.
Sure.
And then I end up stalled and doing nothing and then just plotting and researching and just in a,
Right.
like a loading circle.
Procrastinating.
Yes. That's actually perfect, yes. But I decided to take your guys' advice, and when I had a bit of inspiration, I had a conversation living in my head. I wrote in story form because that's how I saw it. I saw it as a cinematic. So
Sure.
I went with it, and I cranked out 4 pages, but I liked them.
That's good.
And I don't know. I'm not sure what novel I'm plugging it into. I kind of have a shared world thing going on in my mythology, so
Right.
it could go anywhere. But I was just, I was like, I don't know. I was happy changing up, getting out of my rhythm and trying a different method.
I think sometimes is what it takes. I mean, I've done this stuff to where I've written a little bit and it broke loose a different story I was working on. So it's like, okay, I shelve that back up and go back to the story I was writing, and sometimes it just works to get your brain moving, So.
Well, I guess there's somewhere to go between the schizophrenic jumping all over stories and staying on one story. There's a middle ground probably to be had.
I'm sure. Okay, well, do you want to get to your story?
Right.
You want to get moving on that?
Me. It's all about me.
Okay. So this will be you're doing 2 parts?
Yeah.
2 parts or 3 parts?
It's long enough to be 3 parts, but I don't know where to split it on the 3rd section, so
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to try and gun through.
Roll with it then.
All right. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
All right. And I will attempt to not do accents, even though some part of my subconscious desperately wants that to happen. Wilhelm was exhausted by the time he made it to Millbrook. Not a real city, by the way. Just made it up. It was a quaint community 6 miles north of where anything resembling civilization butted up against London proper. He took the trolley as far north as it would go, and took a hansom to the edge of town. He walked for a while before getting a ride from a friendly textile merchant headed to York, who took him the remainder of the distance. Millbrook had seen better days. While it was never a particularly large community, it did boast a farrier and a mill. In fact, there was almost nothing to remind you that they were in the middle of an industrial revolution. The small stone and wattle structures could have belonged to any age within the last 400 years. It would have been picturesque if not for the dilapidation of the houses, the buildings, and the rot of the dried flora that had not recovered from the August heat. People in the in ruined rags peeked out from windows and open doorways at the dandy that plodded along the earthen street. Wilhelm held out a crisp white piece of paper with an intended address in front of him. Looking left and right, he found no indication that any of the buildings even conceived of the notion of an address. He saw small forms dart behind buildings as he trudged along that he supposed were children at play. The birds whistled from trees that surrounded half the village, but little else stirred. A sharp noise drew his attention as a shutter slammed closed on a window to his right. Feeling on edge, he snapped his head to the left at the sound of a creaking board. An austere man dressed in a faded black suit, some 40 years out of fashion, stood on a small porch in front of a house on his left. His bespectacled gaze held no humor. Looking for someone, is you? Yes, 147 Primrose. Can you help? Wilhelm asked as he approached the man. The man glanced at his note and pointed down the road. The last building on the right. That's 138. That's the whole town. Seems someone sent you on a snipe hunt. Wilhelm looked at the man and wanted to ask about the town, but was unnerved by the glint in the man's eyes. He opened his mouth to say something, but could not think of a tactful way to ask and promptly shut it. You have something else to ask. Out with it then. I've got things to tend to. Is there something wrong? He wasn't sure how to end it, as there seemed to be something wrong with a good many things here. Aye. You've no doubt seen the town is dying. Nothing much grows here anymore. The fish don't bite, and the children have gone. Gone where? The children, I mean. Hopefully to better prospects in town. But I know that's not the case. One or two might run off for better futures in the city, but not all of them. Well, almost all. Almost all? Aye, that's what I said. The Delaney girl has gone mute. Except at night she hums a strange melody. They had to tie her to the bed to keep her from running off. The devil's in that child, mark my words. Where can I find the Delaney child? The mill. Don't think they'll be taken to strangers, though. Thanks. Have a good evening. Wilhelm waved as he strode northeast of the mill. Get out of town before you share in our miseries. It's not safe at night. Wilhelm ignored the man, not wishing to extend the conversation further, and walked to the windmill. It creaked loudly in the subtle wind as its blades slowly turned. He had to be careful as he knocked on the door as the wooden sails crossed the entryway. A robust man of 40 answered the door with thinning red hair. What are you calling me in this hour? The man asked without much passion. Hello, my name is Wilhelm. I work for people suffering from supernatural threats. I didn't hire you, and I'm not paying you, so you best be on your way now. Wilhelm put a hand to the closing door and a foot to the frame. I didn't come here for you. I came for another matter. I was hoping I could just talk to you for a moment. It's not the devil, and I won't be letting you exorcise the girl. I'm not a priest, good sir. I just want to talk. Come in then, before the whole town comes to watch, he said as he swung the door open and waved him with his other hand. Sitting down at a small, round dining table, he invited Wilhelm to do the same. Talk then. I've heard all the children have vanished. Aye, all but mine. Go on then. Right, so your daughter, they say she tries to leave at night? So you want me to let her so you can follow then, eh? Well, you'd be a braver man than I, that is for sure. But you better believe I'll not be using my daughter in such fashion, he said, pounding his fist on the table. I wouldn't ask that, Wilhelm said, exasperatedly, as he cupped his forehead. Might I just talk to her? Not sure what good that'll do you, but I have no objections. The miller stood up and exited to an adjoining room and began to climb a steep staircase with narrow steps. They climbed the square tower for several flights till they came to a room with a loud creaking wooden cogs. In the opposite end of the large room was a bed littered with homemade stuffed animals and dolls. A little girl with bushy, untamed red hair played with a small gray creature, indecipherable due to its poor workmanship. She hummed an eerie tune that made Wilhelm's hair stand on end. Wilhelm looked at his forearm to make sure his hair was not growing as the feeling was similar. It was not, but that did little to ease his tension, only increase it. Time for bed, darling, the miller said, with more warmth than Wilhelm had grown to expect of the man. The girl complied with a small huff and lay on the bed fully clothed and spread her arms and legs in a practiced fashion. The miller reached under the bed and brought up a loop of rope and put it about the wrist and repeated the process until she was secure. Is this really necessary? Wilhelm asked with concern. You just wait. The sun hasn't quite set yet. The miller grabbed a chair from the wall and sat down at the bedside. I don't like to be here for this part, but it'd be worth it to see the smarter than everyone else look die away from your face, he said with an unkind smile. Wilhelm stood and waited, looking over the bed at the westward window, only a dozen feet away. As soon as the red line died on the horizon, a fit took the girl so that she contorted violently. She hyperextended her arms and legs, pulling at the rope and bending the brass frame of the bed. She began to make hoarse, growling noises and looked about wildly. Let me go. I must go away. You cannot keep me here forever. Father. Wilhelm leaned close, placing a placating hand on her shoulder as he leaned in. A cold radiated off of her like heat from a fire, and he reflexively withdrew his hand. Go where, young miss? Away, I said. Let me go and I'll show you. Let me go. If you tell me where, I'll make sure it's safe. Then you can go. She arched her back and turned her head so that she looked out the window. It's not far. Wilhelm looked in the direction she looked, but saw only woods. The eeriness of the situation was beginning to overwhelm his senses, and his vision shifted. Suddenly the sounds of the room fell into the distance, and the color drained from the room. Thanks to his peripheral faded off into nothingness. Superimposing the image of the woods was a pillar of red fire that filled him with dread and longing. I must be going, Wilhelm said fiercely through the intrusion of elongated canine teeth. He descended the steps and ran across the town to the woods.
Okay, that was good.
Seemed intense.
Yeah.
Little, I was like, I don't know, you kind of teased hilarity. And I'm like, all right, wait a minute. This is very tense.
Yeah, I don't know
I don't
how
think
hilarious we get, but
Reached the funny part.
We haven't
of
reached
that.
the hilarity yet.
But it was good. I liked it. I liked her like humming the tune because that's freaking creepy. Like kids humming that weird ass shit.
The whole thing felt like it was like the beginning of like some kind of like horror movie. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, wait a minute.
But I kind of like it. You definitely painted a scene there.
Well,
that-
it's definitely different, and I do like that. I like, wait a minute, it's like kind of a break from the normal. For
We've had a
everything.
lot of chaos these last few chapters, so I actually really like this slowdown and this kind of like pulling you into this quiet, sleepy town that, you know, shit's just not quite right.
Right,
I like it. I'm good.
right. And then, what did I say when we were off air? The name of your town?
Oh, Mel Brooks?
Yeah. A little homage to Mel Brooks.
Yeah, it was Mel Brook, but it was just a thing that popped in my head. I was thinking like a brook, like a river, but you know what? Maybe subconsciously I was honoring
Copy of Spaceballs sitting on the table. Didn't think about it.
it. I'm okay with an homage. It was
So.
unintentional, but I'll take it.
Cool.
Some raspberry jam dripping down the TV screen.
So was that like most of the setup? Was that a good place to break before things change?
Yeah,
or-
after that he kind of gets to the destination and things happen.
Okay. So it's kind of a longer trek than normal to get there.
Yeah, I just wanted to build a little
Tension
suspense
and
and
stuff.
it also a little backstory to the gnomes.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess.
Oh, as far as like the little girl, that's what's happening with her. She's trying to be turned into a gnome.
She's being called to a dance. Yes. Yeah, it's sort of like what was that Disney movie everybody loves? Hocus Pocus. You know, like the girl that witch sings a song and all
I
the
do
girls,
not love that movie.
the kids and whatever run off.
No?
No, I am
Sort
not
of
a
a
fan.
Pied Piper thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people love it, like Halloween.
It's got a big
It's like
following.
a Christmas story for Halloween. And I'm like, I don't get
I don't
it.
like A Christmas Story.
I mean,
and
I'm
everybody
happy with
thinks
the
I
I'm
don't like a
Nightmare
Christmas
completely
story
crazy.
either. No, I'm bored to shit with it.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas
Nightmare
is okay.
Before Christmas is cool.
I'm a Hellraiser guy. I love Hellraiser.
Is that your Christmas
I
movie?
like the
It's
concept of
my anytime
Hellraiser.
movie. Like that's my go back.
I like 20 minutes of various movies of Hellraiser. I don't think there's been a consistently great Hellraiser movie.
So I like Stephen King stories and stuff like that.
I mean, other than Bloodline, and that ends in a space station, so it's like, you know.
No, that was Oblivion.
No, that was Bloodline. That was the
Was
first
it
one.
Bloodline? I thought it was Oblivion.
Oblivion's like part 4, where they take all the romance of him being a noble demon,
They kind of
and he's like being an
unravel it
unpet.
all. Yeah.
I'm like, really?
So-
That's it?
Well, see, horror is my thing. Like,
Stop explaining things. The Joker doesn't need a backstory.
Yeah.
Neither does Pinhead.
I love reading horror and stuff like that. So yeah, no, you capture the creepiness and everything. That's a good start. That's interesting. I'm
I'm
kind of
actually
like
not big on horror.
I love horror. No, like I like reading horror more than I like watching it.
Yeah,
You
most
know,
horror movies are crap.
Like it's so funny to me because like my mind is able to put in creepy details that the author didn't necessarily put in there. Whereas then you get to a movie and they're just not very good at. I don't know. Like
well,
there's not many
it's mostly
that are that
gore and shock.
good that are
See, and
It's
I'm
not
not
like
big on gore.
Hitchcockian.
although I'm
Like I'll watch a surgery, like that kind of stuff doesn't
Oh.
bother me.
Yeah.
But
Oh, no.
like gore
Well-
for the sake of gore, like I refuse to see the Saw movies. Like gore for the sake of gore is just.
oh well
a no.
that's actually Saw isn't.
I'd rather watch fake
Horror
Saw
thriller.
than real eyeball surgery any day.
I feel like
Ugh.
Saw is blood, guts, and gore catharsis, right? I mean, it's not like horror. It's not scary. It's not
It's gore.
thrilling.
I
It's
mean,
just
other than the
blood.
concept of would you take out your own eyeball for the key?
Yeah, but it's like.
But it's gore, and
I mean-
like so I won't watch those. And like honestly, as far as like horror that's really scary, like to me ghosts are scary. But in
I ain't
my
afraid
house,
no ghost.
like I'm single, so if something goes bump in the night, I'm the one who has to get up and go investigate, and I'm not gonna watch a horror movie and run the chance that happens.
Well, you need a +1 weapon to hit a ghost. Just so you know.
I need to carry my shotgun assault.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I've always been down with that. Like that was something that didn't they do that in Supernatural?
Supernatural, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's fucking brilliant.
I always wanted to watch that, but there's like 14 seasons
No,
of
it's,
this.
Oh
see,
my God,
there's
it's
a lot
so
of people
good.
who love it, and I know some of the people who listen to our show love
Yeah,
Supernatural.
I've seen a couple of those.
I
It's
think
entertaining.
everybody loves Supernatural.
No, I don't love Supernatural. I like the premise.
How
I like,
much have you actually watched
I like
of
yeah,
it?
I watched a few seasons. I like the two guys playing the characters for the most part. I like the premise, but I wish they had a much bigger budget because the show would be much better.
Well, probably.
If
but it
somebody
is
else was
what
producing it.
I actually
What, is it
haven't seen
special
the more
effects? What
recent.
throws you off?
It's a CW bullshit thing, It's no
Yeah.
better than the
probably
Legends
the-
of Tomorrow.
It's
I
probably
mean,
the only
Who cares? It's
CW that
still a good
doesn't
show.
revolve around romance and
But like,
constant
I
brooding.
haven't seen the more recent seasons.
yeah.
But like, basically, every time I go to like pull it up on Netflix, I keep going back to my favorite episodes and rewatching them because they're freaking awesome.
I feel like we could write Supernatural,
probably.
so I don't think it'd be that hard.
I heard it's ending though. So sad.
It has to go sometime.
I know it's been on forever.
What are they gonna do? Like suddenly they're gonna be out there trying to get jobs and be like, who are you?
I know, like, well, no, because
Because that's all they've done is acted in a
it's-
show for like a decade and a half.
It's ending at just the right time.
Oh,
They're
but
both
everybody knows who they are.
they're both old enough to go into assisted living, and
oh my god.
the show's been going on that long. So
Whatever. They're awesome, and I love that fucking car.
no, the car's amazing. Actually, I was looking at one. I was like, can I afford this? And then I haven't looked at the price. I can't afford
Oh
it.
yeah.
So they're so expensive.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Well, because it's a classic now.
Well, it is. Yeah.
So it's like, how much is it? $74,000.
Wow.
I don't make that kind of money.
Right.
I have a podcast. Nobody pays us. So
Right. We're writers. We
Right.
did this for the money and fame.
we had to live in our mom's basement to do this. So,
Yeah, no.
hey, sacrifices had to be made so that people would hear our voices each week.
Oh, Lord.
It's just called a day job.
But
Indeed.
that would impinge on my art.
Right.
Mom, we're taping down here. Make me some hot pockets.
Do your friends want some pizza rolls? Oh,
Oh, that's
Lord.
great.
I'm betting anybody who like is listening to this and actually had their mom fetch them pizza rolls does not find us funny right
Yeah.
now.
Fuck you guys.
Right?
I have a condition.
What, college debt?
Who doesn't have that condition?
Exactly. Oh my god.
Crippling college debt. That should
Crippling
be
debt in general.
should be a reason to collect Social Security right there. All right. You want to take a break? Come back with the next half of your.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we're about to get to the funny. Bear with
Hopefully,
us.
maybe.
In a topsy-turvy world, it's nice to have something that makes sense. This isn't it, but we hope you enjoyed anyways.
That now. Thanks. That was all me. Yeah.
Start over.
Wah, 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 wah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're back, and we're going to move on to the second part of Odin's story.
Okay.
Do we want to jump into that now? You've got
Yeah.
quite a bit left.
Fair amount.
Okay.
All right.
Go for it.
It took some time of walking and stopping to listen before he noticed anything. After about 45 minutes, he smelled such a pleasant mixture of flowers that he decided it was worth investigating. 20 minutes later, he came upon the most wondrous sight. Like a painting it stood, a simple, if not somewhat large, round stone hut. It had a thatched roof and was surrounded by flowers of every description. It was a large glade, perhaps 150 meters across, and sectioned like a sundial into rows of smaller gardens. To the right of the house was a pond covered in lilies, as the sound of frogs and crickets filled the night air. Wilhelm stood and took in the scene, illuminated by the foxfire of the fireflies, as the stars began to shine on this moonlit night. Wilhelm walked along a path of stones set into the divisions of the garden, up to the house. A movement to his right grabbed his attention, and he looked at a cluster of tulips suspiciously for a moment before a rabbit hopped off peacefully, still chewing on something. He banged the knocker on the round door a bit too loudly, given the peaceful night. After a few moments of shuffling about and seeing something pass by the obscured window, the top half of the door opened as an exceptionally attractive woman in her early 30s peeked out and leaned on the bottom door. Her nightgown would have been modest on someone much larger than her, but on her it gapped and sagged, with her straps sitting off her shoulders. "My, look what the cat dragged in," she said in a salacious manner. "What brings you out to me doorstep at this hour?" "You called about a gnome problem?" Wilhelm said tentatively, while retreating a step from the comely woman. "Right, I did. Right little bastards they are. Well, what you waiting on? An engraved invitation from His Majesty? Get to it. The buggers are all over the garden, so they are." "Right," Wilhelm responded, looking left and right. "I'll do just that." He walked away, and she shut and latched the door. Wilhelm looked about for anything and began to assume that she might just be daft on account of living alone in the middle of nowhere. Then again, what was that fiery image he beheld? Then he saw it, a small creature with a mischievous smile and an evil glint in its eye, no more than a yard away. It even had on a small red cap and everything. Wilhelm pounced and grabbed the creature with both hands. Raising it up to his face to see in the dwindling light, he removed his right hand and peered down. It was a stone statue, a mere garden decoration. The woman was mad. He walked back to the door and rapped impatiently at it. The top door opened, and the woman's long raven hair was undone, and she no longer had on her nightgown, just her chemise. "What is it? You can't have gotten them all already." "Is this what plagues you, miss?" Wilhelm asked, while extending the creature at her. "Get it away," she shrieked, while extending her hand to rebuff the statue and stepping back into the dark house. "It's just a statue. It won't harm you." "That's what you think. Look, I paid you for a job, and a job you'll do. There's 24 of them out there. Remove them from my property, and you'll get paid. And don't you look at me like that. If I am mad, so what? My money's still good. It'll let me sleep at night. It will. Just get rid of the buggers, would you?" She looked so imploringly and desperately at him that his heart was moved to her plight. Then she slammed the door. Moments later, the door opened and she called him over. He was looking along the edge of the pond when she offered him a sack and a lantern. He thanked her, and she slammed the door again. He walked with a crouch, with the lantern low, as he moved the grasses aside with a stick. Did she mean a literal 24? Because this could take all night. Perhaps he could return in the morning. There had to be somewhere nearby to get lodging. She'd probably be happy to lodge him, he thought with a shudder. A noise not unlike a rabbit was coming from behind him. Setting the lantern down, he took the sack with both hands and pounced. Another gnome statue, this one smoking a pipe, was clutched much too tightly in his hands. Was this here a moment ago? Surely he would have seen it if it was. It is dark, though. He began to feel infected with her insanity as he heard another noise at the edge of the woods where he had entered. His heart was beating faster than was necessary as he stalked along the garden path. His ears began to point as he could hear the rustle of cloth. If it is a gnome, it is not one of stone. He crept closer until his eyes discerned a female shape he knew well. "Zara!" he exclaimed happily in a whisper. "Hey, Willie. I finished the last job and got bored. Thought I'd lend you a hand." "Glad to have you, but I doubt I need the help to gather lawn ornaments." "What's this now?" she said, with an arched brow as she leaned against a tree with her legs crossed. Wilhelm jiggled his sack that contained 2 stone gnomes. "Lady's a bit mad, I'm afraid. Almost ashamed to charge her. Though rooting around in the forest in the middle of the night makes it so I almost have to, lest every nutter get in their head that we're out doing freebies. Tell you what, give me the sack, and you hold the lantern, and we'll get this over in no time." "Sounds good to me. Frankly, I'm afraid she might try to reward me with something other than money." "Are you saying I should go then?" she said with a conspiratorial wink. "Heavens forbid!" They both giggled at his exclamation and began to walk about the garden. "What are we looking for exactly?" Wilhelm pointed to the sack, and she reached in. "Not very cute, are they?" she said with a smirk, just as she fell face first into the mucky earth. Wilhelm was so filled with concern that laughing never occurred to him, until she opened her eyes and looked at him from her knees. Then he couldn't help himself as he offered her a hand. With surprising strength, she whipped him into the mud and began to laugh herself. "Now that's hardly fair," he whined, while brushing mud from his sleeve. "It'll come off leather rather easily. But not my hair." Zara looked back from where she tripped and saw nothing there to trip on. They both looked back by the pond as they heard laughter. Walking slowly and closing the hood of the lantern, lest they give away their position, they stalked towards the source of the laughter. Nothing but crickets and frogs disturbed the night. As they crept closer, they heard the noise of a feral cat. They both turned towards the noise as the cat jumped onto Wilhelm's back, hissing loudly and intoned in a small voice, "Leave this place," before jumping off. "Did the cat just talk?" Wilhelm asked in a scared voice, while brandishing the lantern. "I think it had something on its back," Zara said as she picked up a sizable stick that might be better described as a log. "Perhaps we should come back in daylight." "Might be a good idea," Zara said, walking backwards. Her foot hit something hard, and she swung the stick for all it was worth. The top half of a gnome skull and a red hat went flying off into the garden. "This is starting to weird me out," she said, while crouching to pick up the gnome and toss it in her bag. Wilhelm began to part grasses with a thin stick, looking for more gnomes. If they were just decoration, they shouldn't be that hidden, even if the garden was a little overgrown. It seemed like they found you more often than you found them. They walked no more than 10 feet apart, tramping down grass and flower alike in search of the concrete imps. After about 2 hours of fumbling in the dark, they had a dozen of them and were considering calling it quits. They headed back to the stone house when Wilhelm managed to get himself tangled in a gossamer thin thread of beads and bells. Zara set the sack down and began to untangle Wilhelm from the nearly invisible thread as she suddenly stopped. Zara backed away, Wilhelm, with horror on her face, and slowly bent down to her belongings. She grabbed the oversized stick while Wilhelm looked on in confusion. He began to feel spiders crawling all over him and began to shake violently, only getting more tangled. Zara began to beat Wilhelm about the shoulders, head and back. Wilhelm, in anger and confusion, began to sprout hair everywhere. His movements slowed as his skin stretched and his bones popped. A mass passed in front of his face, and he saw a gnome, a real flesh and blood gnome, hanging from the hair that would constitute a mustache on a human face, staring back at him. Its arms were on either side of his mouth, and it shouted in a small, tinny voice, "I told you to leave." Wilhelm was getting rather angry, and had to resist simply eating the creature. "Why do you attack us?" "You're helping the witch." "Witch," Wilhelm said in a shocked tone he mused might be unearned. "Actually, yeah, that sounded about right." "Then stop attacking us and we'll deal with the—" Wilhelm was interrupted as a large stick collided with his jaw. "Stop," he tried to say, but he was losing his voice to a howl as his beast nature began to fully manifest. She continued to hit him with the stick another 30 times until he jumped into the pond to stop the biting gnomes and Zara's death swings. He launched himself from the bottom of the pond with a great leap and shook his fur, flinging water and gnomes in every direction. Well, Zara said while looking at her nails, seems like you got this handled. I'm going to head back now, she said as she turned back towards the forest and walked away. Confusion rung on Wilhelm's woven face as he spoke inarticulate vowels. By the time he was able to revert back, Zara was long gone. Walking back to the lantern, he found the sack was empty. Anger and frustration mounting, he walked briskly to the door and knocked loudly. The woman answered with a smile. Did you bring the gnomes? She asked while eyeing the limp sack. Are you a witch? He asked crossly. No matter. You killed half of them and the rest have fled. Well done. Are you a witch? He repeated sternly. I thought you wanted to be paid in banknotes. Not truth, but if that's the coin you choose. She passed a hand over her head and lowered it down. Wherever it was now stood something else. Her hair was thin and wispy, nearly white. Her eyes were hollow and recessed black holes. Her skin was much paler, mottled, and with a good deal more wrinkles. Her breasts lost their youthful fullness and sagged lifelessly, and her clothes turned to age-white rags. Her long, tapered fingers terminated in translucent nails much too long and blood-stained. Behind her, the hovel was filled with jars and herbs that hung from the ceiling, and rooms branched off of rooms filled with silver and mirrors. Most prominent of all was a half-dozen corpses of human children with no skin, hanging from black metal hooks along the walls on either sides of the windows, their blood dripping to the floorboards. She began to cackle furiously and wave as she slid to the right. Her whole house moved to the right at an increasing pace. Hundreds or perhaps thousands of what appeared to be chicken legs supported the house as it climbed out of the muck and ran downhill like some hell-born centipede.
Okay.
I don't think it got any funnier. I think it got more horrifying.
It got darker, that's for sure.
So, I guess it's close to what we discussed.
It is. My actual only issue is the fumbling around for 2 hours with evil Zara.
Yeah.
I don't think she'd stick around that long.
I think she would have kicked his ass and left.
Yeah,
But- and
she
I-
would have instigated trouble long before 2 hours of
Right.
helping. So maybe
Yeah,
we
I
shorten
don't think
that
she would have
time.
helped as long. Yeah, no.
No.
I think she would have gotten to the point of sabotaging him faster.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really like my only issue.
If anything, she might have helped him gather all the gnomes just to cut the belly of the sack at the last minute.
The threads
I
and
mean,
bells and stuff was, what did he walk into?
It was just like a bead curtain wind chime thing hanging from a tree.
And
he
there
d-
were spiders on it?
No, that was the when she set her stick and sack down,
Uh-huh.
the gnomes, not being watched, came to life and started crawling all over him.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Oh, okay. Because you said it felt like he had spiders on him, and so
Well,
that
yeah, because I mean
confused
it's
me.
crawling up his back and he doesn't know what the hell's going on and he's freaking out.
Maybe giant spiders. I was like, is the Joragumo making a comeback?
Don't call it a comeback. She's been here for years. Sorry, little LL Cool J.
Oh, Lord.
Nobody?
Um,
Does anybody remember it?
Well, the
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
the
Mama
comedy
said
is,
knock you out?
Not only
Yeah.
just in the slapstick of the sticks, but there's a few turn of phrases here and there. I don't know. I'd have to reread it to point it out, but
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, I mean, that was really my only thing, is just that, like, because he's saying, like, he walks into, like, these gossamer thin threads, and then you mentioned spiders, so my thought
well,
is...
I said hung with
A
beads
big
and
ass spider web.
bells.
Yes, I know you did, and so,
Okay.
like, I was trying to decipher,
I was
like, was
wondering
it
whether-
actual spider web, or
Yeah, I
was
was
this a
wondering whether
decoration?
beads and bells and a spider web.
Beads
I
and
was like,
bells
wait
to
a
me
minute.
is some, like, hippie, like, kind of,
Yeah.
you know, decoration.
Well, I just thought maybe the spiders were very, like, good at decorating.
They have their own Etsy shop, you know?
Right, yeah.
Well, I mean, afterwards the gnome flies in front of his face. So
Right,
thought
and
that
I got
kinda-
so I was just trying to decipher. Like I was picking up on your clues, but then also like the feel of spiders. Like I didn't connect gnomes to that. So maybe
I don't know. Maybe
we
because I'm
word it
paranoid,
differently.
and whenever I have like an itch or
Whenever
something,
something
it's
touches
like,
you, you
is there a
think
spider?
spider.
Is there a spider on me?
Gnomish spider riders.
That's horrifying.
It is horrifying, right? Going into battle,
yeah.
Well, it's bad enough on a
waving
cat.
around croquet mallets. You know, we will get you.
lawn ornaments. Oh my god, I love it.
You know, like I don't know, it'd be funny. So,
And
okay.
Anybody who missed last episode, the secret truth is those are the souls of the kids that she slaughtered to feed her house.
Yeah, I think maybe like we knew that. I'm not sure if it was well portrayed. I think that maybe you got some of it through, but I'm not sure if it's because we knew that already.
Yeah,
right. No, I
it
get
might.
that, I
I
get
think
that.
it might be.
So if you did listen to this, let us know what you think. Let us know if you think that the point was made.
Well, here's the thing: we need
Or-
to decide: do we need to make our readers aware of this, or is this just the backstory?
I
Do
think
we
I-
want the readers
I think
to
there's a way to
know?
have punched it up, but I didn't want to do it through
I mean,
the
it's
exposition
creepy
of
as fuck.
conversation because
Right.
he's not helping the gnomes. He's screwing them over. He's actually on the wrong side of this battle.
Right, and
Right.
he's trying to figure that out in the end, but
Too
it's
late.
too late. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe we can do something when she whacks the head off the gnome. Maybe have something about the soul gets released.
I thought about that, or having blood coming out of it, like
Or
something because
maybe the
fleshy.
head is still talking.
See, but if you cut
and
the
he's
blood,
like, "You bastard!"
after the past couple of chapters where we have all these fake creatures, I feel like if you make it bleed after you whack the head off, we're gonna think it's another fake creature.
Yeah.
So I think that it has to be something about the child's soul releasing if we whack the head when Zara murders the gnome.
I'll get you. No,
Really?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, really.
So unfortunately, the cat did not talk. It was the gnome, right?
Yeah.
Aw.
So no talking
I was
pussy.
I was excited about the talking cat. Really, he said he put his stick and sack down, and you went after the talking pussy. Really?
You're right. I totally missed it. Damn.
Yeah, you
I
missed
like
the limp sack
I like
or the
looked
sack
at
with
both
two
of you
gnomes
and
in
nothing.
I
I
mean,
was like,
come
all
on.
right, I'm
There's
gonna be
so
the
many
mature one and let it
references.
go.
No, I was trying to remember like where we were going. Like I've had a lot on my mind because I'm always worried when my turn is coming up, and I'm not trying to hijack yours or anything at the moment. I'm just like, oh no, mine's coming up next, and what do I got to do? You guys seem to be able to like write in a day. You seem to be able to write your whole part, and it takes me all week to write my part because I have so much self-doubt. And so, like, I'll be like, oh, I should do this. No, not that.
See, that's
I'll
funny
do
because
this
that's
instead.
not where my doubt comes in. I have plenty of doubt, but it's usually like I have this idea and this inspiration, and I will just type my heart out and I write this whole thing, and I'm like, I like this, and then I write it and I read it and I go back and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like,
Yeah.
who wrote
Yeah.
this shit?
Yeah, no,
Well,
I
if I
can't.
wasn't submitting
can't.
this every week, I would have edited the hell out of this.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
like
I-
I've gone back to like the first scene I wrote for this story. Like I went back and I read it and I'm like, you know, I really liked this when I wrote it, and now I hate it. So
Well, I mean, we're going to edit this whole thing. This is the
I know.
rough draft, you know? So it's okay that this isn't exactly what we...
no, I know.
You know, there's going to be a more democratic process when we go back through. It's like, all right, we got to fix this. What do we do now?
I
You
know, but normally when you're writing your own book, like that's the difference. When you're writing your own book, nobody is ever going to see that first draft. And the
Sure.
way that we're doing this here is like we're kind of exposing ourselves, you
Right.
know? Like this is
Right,
the
but
first
we're trying to
this
show the
is-
process.
We are, but this is the part that no other writer would ever show you.
But I think that,
you know, and that's a little intimidating.
It's like-
Really, we're posting this right
Right,
on a
right, right.
public website, and I'm like normally I would have gone back and like been completely neurotic about re-editing it 400 times before it ever hit public eye.
But it's like, if these three idiots
Right.
can do it, anybody can do it, you know?
Well,
so
I mean-
you can write, you know?
If you can string words together and have an idea, sure.
Right. So, and we're saying, yeah, we are three different writing styles.
Oh, so different, yeah.
You know, yeah,
But
completely
that kind of makes it
different.
fun too. Like
Even-
I've enjoyed that.
Even though me and Odin have written together for years,
Mm-hmm.
we've always written completely differently. So,
You guys do have different styles, but you both. I don't know.
We
I feel
enjoy
like you're
similar
similar.
pop culture things.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
You're more similar than I am to the rest of you.
well, we speak that language of friends who've been, because we've been
Right.
friends for 25 years.
long enough to share a brain.
25 years, I think, yeah.
No, that sounds 24, 25.
But I've known Tyr
Yeah.
longer.
That's true.
So.
We just haven't written together or anything.
But, yeah. Well, Tyr doesn't role play either, so.
I don't.
And
I don't get
and
it.
We've done the role playing. You know what?
Yeah, it's
I
hard
did
to
not
turn
role
off
play
the
till I was
voice
an
now.
adult.
Yeah.
So, and we'll come back after the break and talk about that.
Okay, I guess we ran against the clock.
Dear listener, we accept that we had to sacrifice the whole Saturday for your entertainment, but we think you'd be crazy to miss an episode of The Dark and Stormy Nights. The world sees writers as they want to see them, in the simplest terms and the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each of us is a brain
And a dreamer.
And a creator,
and a basket case.
a researcher.
And a comedian.
Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Dark and Stormy Nights.
Listen to Dark and Stormy.
So, Tyr thought we were talking about role play in the sexual sense. and we
I
were
did
not.
not. So that's what it sounded like.
No, we're talking about the nerdy virgin sort.
We were talking about the kind that I haven't done before.
Dwarves and elves and goblins, oh my.
Mm.
So,
Although acting is acting, so you get good at one, you could be better at the other.
well,
There's
I
nothing
tend to.
wrong with elves in the bedroom play.
A lot of
whatever.
my writing experience is modules that because
Is
I
the other
write.
person like an orc? Is
What? No, you put the pointed ears on before it all starts.
I think Odin will agree. I write a pretty good campaign.
Oh yeah. You're. How do I put this? You have a very free mind that doesn't judge, which makes it. I know this sounds like it's a left-handed compliment. It's not, but you can come up with a wild concept and run with it. I have to justify and build, and I get so mired in realism it gets boring and stagnant. So.
That's
Your liberalism, well,
accurate.
I do try to tone you down a little because sometimes you go way off rails, and I think that we balance each other out. Sometimes I feel
He
like I
says
overdo
that.
it. I don't want to crush him.
But my most outlandish shit is his favorite stuff.
I know, but that is the thing that I admire most about you and your writing and your ideas, like everything. Like it's your creativity. Like
Well, it's
your
childlike.
mind is kind of like boundless. Yeah.
I took him through one campaign that we went. It was Inception without incepting. Like we were going from basically universe to universe to
Yes,
universe to universe.
but in that one, you had a caveat, a device, a writing device that actually excused it all. So you had a perfect end.
But it was so simple. It was such a little literal basic thing.
Right, but that's all I'm talking about is suspension of disbelief. That's key. That's where I get mired down in. And it's a trap. You don't want to do that too much,
Right.
but you definitely want the reader to buy in. But you don't want to spend all your time just writing a textbook,
Right.
I wish, however, like I play Harry Potter Wizards Unite,
Mhm.
and I wish they'd have come to me first because my idea was better than what they do. And it's like, you guys, you missed the boat. You
Isn't
could've
it
done-
basically just Pokemon with a different skin?
No, it's a bit different. It's good. It's fun, but
I might have to try this.
yeah, I don't know. I'm like an 8th level
Have
wizard
you,
right
have you
now.
run into other people in cloaks?
I don't do it a ton.
Is it like out in the world that kind of like
yeah,
that?
Yeah, you
Pokemon
can go
Go?
around and there's inns and stuff where you can
I
get
am
some
joking.
spell energy, and you can like fight
I
things.
mean, Harry
in
Potter's
the
huge.
towers
There's
and
people
stuff.
out
No,
there
I
with
know.
wands and
I was
capes and
purposely
shit.
being an a-hole, though.
You can gather like herbs and stuff and make potions and. There's
Like,
a bunch
really?
Yeah. There's a
Oh,
bunch
but
of
like
shit.
in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, but it does. So the only thing you have to
Now
walk
that would be
for,
awesome. You go to a bar, you get potions, advance the game. I'd
But-
be down for that.
the only thing you have to walk for is to open portal keys and stuff like that, and they're just special things. You don't actually have to walk for much. So, but I do.
This
I-
segment brought to you by somebody who has not paid us yet.
So yeah, Harry Potter, you can give us a call, y'all. Okay, so are we gonna go next week into my chapter?
Yeah, that's where we're at. We are at.
So
Okay, so we just had Evil Zara.
so now we need good Zara, right?
Zara, who's already with Evil Meredith.
Okay, so we're what? How we want to do this? Are they like, who's my? What's my?
Oh, what's the jobs left open?
What's my monster? Yeah, what's my creatures?
I don't know that we have a job left open. Let me.
Well,
go-
you had like 6 jobs on the board that you rewrote after I wrote my chapter because we released those stories in the same
No.
week.
We modified it to change one to a ghost so that it accounted for yours.
Right. I'm just wondering which
Is
one's
that where
been
the
done.
pottery scene's gonna go?
The what?
Never
Yes, that's exactly where that goes.
I got a dirty look from Odin.
No, I totally missed that.
The
The
pottery
pottery
scene
scene?
with the ghost.
Oh, dear Lord.
So, so what's my creature?
I'm looking. You got to give me a second here.
Do, 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 do.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I
I'm
was
scrolling. This was like 3 or 4 chapters ago.
I was gonna reference something I was watching. I can't remember if it was Hulu or Amazon, but it was a guy from Reaper.
Dude, it's been forever. Oh, the
like
chubby
Go-
guy,
I
his
think it's like-
friend.
yeah, I think it's like Ghosted or something, or
He's not in that.
no, there's
No,
whatever.
Ghosted is. I want to say Craig Ferguson, but it's not Craig Ferguson. It's
I don't
Craig
know. There's a
something.
one where he's a stoner medium.
I don't know what we're talking about.
And in like season 3, you know, I think it's Kumar from Harold and Kumar. I think
Okay.
Well, there's the cover art shows them doing that whole Unchained Melody scene, and I've been watching all 3 seasons just waiting for this because it looked hilarious. It never happened. Just cover art. That was so disappointing.
That's lame.
I know.
I feel like if you cover art, you've got like the scene in your cover art.
It's still funny, though.
At some point, it should happen.
It should happen. Yes, I agree. Like,
All right, I found it.
okay, what are we facing?
Okay,
I'm
here's
sure I've
what
got
the
the wrong
scene
actors,
said.
wrong everything.
A
but-
brownie was spotted in the park across town. A call came
Oh,
in
yeah.
saying the Baba Yaga is living in the woods behind their house. A message came in from Lady Whitby, who swears her house is haunted. And one of your neighbors insists that a gnome has decided to build a home on their property and steal food from their garden.
Okay, so
That is all of them.
let's check that out.
So we don't.
So we just did Gnomes, and Whippy was my last one.
We already did brownies. We already did Baba Yaga. These are all done.
Shit. So do I do?
So maybe there's another call that
I
comes in.
say we start to make it more obvious that
Okay,
these
they've fallen
aren't
back to the house
members.
then?
No, that these aren't members of their team. Do have Meredith do something that makes Zara
All right.
really.
Wait, what was the job Zara was last at?
The haunted house with the slimes.
Yeah,
That was good Zara? I don't even
that was
remember.
good Zara and evil Meredith.
Okay, so have her
It was
coming
good
back.
Zara, good Hammond, and evil Meredith.
Correct.
Okay, so you get to write the second half of my chapter. Them coming back, something happened, sabotage. We already said that Hammond was going off to another job.
He
from
burned
there.
down the house and then he went to deal with the brownies.
Okay,
Right.
so now we've got to get everybody home, right? And that's where the confrontation's really going to happen. Is all of the
Yeah, they need to come back and regroup.
so everybody's basically backing to the house,
Or
right?
unless something happens in carriage
but
along the
Meredith
way.
can't just come into the house.
No, that's why I think she's going to attack.
Waylayer.
Yeah, she's going to try and tag Zara before they get there. So I'm wondering if, okay, you know how I said all hell is breaking loose in London now, right? So,
And
They come back
Crow
to London to
is
find
still
it.
with
It's under
Mary.
fire.
Crow is with good Meredith.
Right.
So,
Maybe they can't get back to their house because there's
So
too much
Mary
crap
actually
happening in the
has
city.
an alibi. So whatever she does to Zara,
so that's what I'm thinking is, right? So they're on their way back to the brownstone to get the next job. And then they run into a traffic jam of supernatural freak show in the streets of London, right? And what, they have to fight it, and then maybe Zara turns on her. Or Meredith turns on Zara, rather. Right?
Was it Long Halloween, the Batman arc? No, it's Nightfall. I'm
This
thinking
better
of.
fit.
All right, well, Bane
What?
breaks everybody out of jail, or Arkham or whatever,
Okay.
and Batman's up for 3 days straight with 0 sleep, fighting in daylight, which is something he doesn't do. Just nonstop battling low-level criminals and high-level criminals up and down until he just gets decimated by Bane. I'm saying it could be something like that. You've got a rupture to the other world.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
This could be an all-week
It's-
thing.
it's
This
nuts.
could last forever. I mean, this might be. I
wait,
don't
you
know how
think
entertaining
this
it
is
would be.
fixable?
That's
I
not what
don't
we're
know.
saying. It's just
I'm just
not
saying.
fixable by hand-to-hand
It's
combat.
great cinematic.
It's not
it's a good
fixable
story,
by
though.
hand-to-hand combat, but
But
we
to
said
get
that
home, to get to the whole, the whatever, the magic books or whatever they're using or whatever, they're going to have to fight their way home.
they are. I think it's going to have to be Crow who deals with it ultimately, because we said that Talbot released something that caused a leak or a tear or something.
Okay, so they have to track down the source. So
Right.
they can't
But
be wasting
I-
time doing
I
battles.
I don't know that our team
Do we
would know enough.
reintroduce? Do we introduce like maybe Poppy and
Wait, you know what we could do?
Yeah, they're probably already in the streets.
Well, that's what
fighting.
I'm wondering. Is
Yeah,
it
I feel like
and
Poppy and Philip would already be out and
Yeah.
about.
All right, but here's what I'm suggesting.
Like almost side members of the team.
They
like
got it.
not
just
main.
because all hell's breaking loose. You're gonna do the right
Peripheral.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
They got to find whatever magic crystal or whatever the hell's glowing that they got to stop this portal, whatever, whatever the MacGuffin might be. They got to get to that and stop it. So all the battles that happen along the way are distractions. So they might punch a guy and run by, but they're not wasting time taking down every goblin or whatever. They can't. They can't
No,
get
they
mired.
can't.
They
Alright.
can't get mired in
All
this.
right,
Right.
all right.
But
So
I-
there is a goal, right? We're trying to get somewhere.
Yeah, but
are we trying to get?
But they
home?
don't know that goal,
Is that
and they got to
Not
find out about that
necessarily.
goal. Someone has to like help them with that. Like maybe it's Crow.
I do
don't
want
know.
to interject. It doesn't have to be this chapter, but
Okay.
I'm saying maybe in the next few chapters. We're on what, 15? So we're, I don't know. If this was my book, I'd say halfway.
Right. Oh, we had already guessed that a lot of stories end around 33 at the pacing we're going.
okay?
So my thought is maybe, and I'm not saying we introduce him as a villain, but maybe we give our readers a glimpse of Talbot that's not someone in a shadow that they don't know.
I mean, they could see him like the smoking man.
No, I'm just saying maybe he's out preaching to people like,
Oh.
this is my point. This is what I told you was coming. Like, he doesn't look like a villain to them. He doesn't look like somebody who's
Yeah.
using
You're
magic.
talking about like
He would never be connected to the source of this issue.
the first 12 minutes of Law and Order. You see the guy. You don't
Boom,
know he's a
boom.
villain.
Yes, yes.
He's just the lawyer who's helping out with this case or something. He's there.
yes.
You expose him, but you don't expose him.
But
Exactly,
okay, so if
exactly.
he's going to give his soapbox talk, though, it's going to be in front of people who matter, in front of people who are going to make a decision. So he's either going to be
At a church?
at
It
the
doesn't
church
matter.
council,
Meredith
or he's
and
going to be
Zara
on
can chase something anywhere. Whatever it is that they see that they're like, oh crap, we can't
So
let
where's
that
the
stay
terror?
out. All
You
they
know?
have to do is chase it past Talbot. Oh, you want them to hunt down the terror? Or
Maybe
do you
I-
want them to just see something where they're
I
like,
think wherever the terror is where the concentration's going to be, and so
On a boat in the River Thames.
yes, I'm just saying I don't think that
It's a moving
that our
terror.
team would find the source of the issue on their own. I think Crow has to be involved with that.
Oh,
that's
wait,
gonna
it's pronounced
that's going to
Thames. I
require
forgot about that.
a regrouping at the manor, at the Brownstone, with Crow, where our team is all going to be really salty with each other. And I think that the only thing that's going to make them pause is if Zara comes home probably very injured, maybe, and tries to accuse Mary, who has an alibi because she's been with Crow the whole time.
Possibly wearing something different.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, it's not a full reveal, but it's a what the fuck just happened here.
So that's what I'm saying is I think we have to get home, right?
Yeah, your story's
So-
not going to be involved all of this.
The
We're just-
goal,
No,
well,
no,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying
No, it
is
doesn't have to be the next chapter.
I think that the goal is to get Zara home. You know, maybe not everybody else, but at least
But that's not Evil Mary's goal.
no.
And she
Evil
doesn't actually
Mary
have to
plans
go
to
home.
stop her before she gets home.
the entire
Right, and
chapter,
cause
she may
trouble.
never get home. It doesn't have to happen.
So
It's just that's the point.
get
And
her waylaid in
The
this
thing
mess.
is that not any of our characters have to recognize Talbot for anything at all. It just has to be something that's introduced to the story.
I agree because this goes back to what I was saying before. You must breadcrumb. For a later reveal, even though it's a book 2 reveal, it'll feel more earned.
but he
you know?
he gets a glimpse at the end of our story, at the very end.
Well,
the
that's
end
true.
of this book,
That's true.
and it as opposed to just having this man pop out of
Dun,
nowhere.
dun, dun.
Whereas this guy, he has been the original overarching evil plotted from the very beginning of our story,
Right.
but he's been nothing more than a shadow so far.
Sure.
So I feel like we reveal his face. Not as anything ominous or anything at all.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be
But
wearing
your
like bishop
reader,
robes.
your reader knows that if they're reading about this, it
Well,
means something.
This is a little steampunky. What if he has his face projected onto the side of a dirigible that's flying around London?
Sort of a
Ooh.
modern day
know.
Wizard of Oz.
This is what I told you would happen if you did not bow before God. You know.
Yeah.
Or at least on the front steps of every church they pass or
Repent.
something.
Repent. It is time for the new Inquisition.
I like that.
I'd move.
But I think that they need to keep
And well, you should.
I think that they need to keep seeing that like near every
But that's what I'm saying. It's
church or city
it's
hall.
a blimp going around with a projection on the side of it. You know.
But you think he'd be preaching like that to the whole city?
Well, I mean,
I mean, if it's a power grab move, at that point, if he's doing something like that, he's not working in the ranks of the church anymore. Because
But that's the thing, is he's trying to get the church to act.
that sounds like he's trying to usurp the
Trying
Church
to
of
get
England.
anybody to give him power.
Well, hold on. The Church of England is independent of Rome. I mean, that goes back to Henry VIII and all
the
that.
church
Nobody
of
cares.
this
But
story is whatever we say it is.
my point being is he might be trying to head the Church of England. Like, instead of just working his way up the ranks.
So it's politics mixed with religion, and
Well, it's a coup.
And
I-
then
if you're
if
doing
the people-
holograms and crap and projections and all this
and
craziness.
the people. Well, this is steampunk. I think the projections.
I think once you go to that level, he's not trying to manipulate the church
This
or the
is-
society. He's moved on to the level of a
this
full-on
is a
coup.
little.
And if you're trying to run the church, you're trying to run the king.
Bioshock. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
It's a little Bioshocky.
All right, that's
That's
cool.
what I'm saying.
So, but yeah, no. That's the thing is we want the people on board. We want everybody. So I think this is a good thing. So then maybe from here on out, now we start seeing him right on the side of the dirigible. You know.
Yeah, I think that he should just be something on the peripheral, that they don't really know what's going down.
Right.
They just know that the citizens are starting to end up in an uprising.
Who's that
That
ugly
they're
salt?
starting to feel more more unhappy with the supernatural presence
Sure.
for those who know about
But
it.
so the point
Does he
is
get
though,
muscle?
that-
Does he get like
that
crusaders, big
I think
bulky dudes and tabards roaming around with
each of our
crosses?
stories from here forward is going to include those blimps or the audios and stuff like that. You know.
Or a pamphlet or a something.
So yeah.
Does that starting to sound like the shock troops in a video game?
I
I'm
think
starting
that
to see
it just needs to acknowledge going forward that this is a presence there,
Sure.
but not necessarily what it means or why it's there. It just needs to exist at this point in the
Right.
story. So, okay, I'm good with that. That was my only point, was that this should be introed before we get to the end of the story.
All right, so this is Zara versus Meredith and Chaos, basically, trying to get home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of free reign.
So are you
and,
going to have Mary, like, injure her or whatever before she can get back? Like, make an attempt on her life?
Some has to step up because
I think the goal is to run them right into trouble and to throw Zara to the wolves, you know, with the intent of getting her
doppelgangers haven't done a
hurt
whole lot
or
so
killed.
far.
And
Right.
when Zara's
So what if,
pulling ahead when it's not working.
Okay, what if they're walking home and they start to see these blimps and they start to see the discord between the humans and the supernatural. Okay, and this is starting to kind of start like a
Pitchforks and torches?
yeah, exactly.
So the humans are rising up and
so-
actually stopping the supernaturals themselves.
This
Not
is your
necessarily,
fault.
but I think there's anger and there's hatred there.
Sure.
Things are going wrong in their houses, and things are these things are wreaking havoc in their city. And their
Putting
quiet,
arsenic
quaint
in the
little
honey
lives
milk.
are no longer quiet and quaint. And I think that maybe it could be something as simple as evil Meredith, seeing this and kind of loving it, right? Because it's chaos and madness. And what if she just leads Zara right into like a bar full of huge bikers, half shifters, half humans, and then instigates the fight right there, and then ditches Zara in the middle of it?
Could be. This is going to take some work. Like I
A
said.
big freaking like shifter alligator or something.
I don't
trying to
think that's
start
gonna be a
shit
problem.
with a giant bouncer.
Like,
or
she might think it's a problem, but Philip might be at the bar and speak for her. Something like that could easily be getting out
Oh,
of.
that's not
'cause
bad. I
she's
didn't
earned
think about
cred.
taking somebody home.
She's earned cred.
But that's not bad. Meredith ends up basically walking away at the last minute, and then Philip happens to be there, and it's like, oh no, not that much trouble after all, you know. And so the plan is completely foiled, and now Zara can show up at home with Philip. Now, I'm
You
not saying that
could.
there's not going to be any fight. That's not what
Right.
I'm saying.
Right.
But I'm saying that it's not because a room full of shifters would kill Zara. You know what I'm saying?
Easily.
Right. So.
Oh, could.
But
not
having
necessarily would.
having a werebear on your side,
But that's my
who
point.
speaks your language.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He would diffuse it instantly.
Yeah.
You know, it might be.
And I've always kind of seen Philip as a more of a cool under pressure kind of guy.
Yeah, he's a werebear. That's like the biggest were you could possibly
Yeah, but
be.
the thing is that if you
aside
know,
from like Bebop or
look,
Rocksteady.
if you know,
and he's an
if you know, like,
organizational
really large people,
supply salesman. He's
They
got to
tend
be
to not
kind
to
of
be
cool
a-holes.
headed.
because
Right.
they go in their whole life without being pushed around, so they never really had to push people around. So they tend to be gentle people. They're not all
Right.
I mean, generally speaking, they tend to be peacemakers. So I think
Well, most shifters
think
you would
that's who he
think would
is.
have learned to fly under the radar, but at the same time, right now they're getting riled up because of the humans. So there's just tensions are high right now.
Well,
I
that's
get
why
that.
I wondered maybe she releases a moon spell. So
Meredith does?
yeah, which would force them all to shift.
Well, you might want to rewrite one section because I said it was moonless. Because I wanted the stars to pop.
That's why I said moon spell. Moon
Oh.
spell would
Alright.
force shifters to shift against the moon.
Oh, okay.
She could have any kind of spell, anything
Well, that
that
would be
raised
chaos. Especially
raised
because
the
they're
stress
in
in the
town
area.
because they're not expecting that.
Right.
any kind of like any kind of spell that like that raised aggression
Right.
between the groups would do it. So yeah, I mean that would definitely work. And then she just struts out while ditching Zara in the middle
Right.
of it.
Yeah, she starts the spell in progress. Oh, I have to go powder my nose.
Yeah.
And disappears just in time for all these shifters to be forced to shift. So you're basically watching all these guys just start to, writhe and pulse in pain as their bodies shift against their will. Guys who've probably had this under control for ages suddenly are
Right.
forced into going feral.
Right.
And she's powdering
Well, I
her
was going to say
nose.
that the spell would be more
I think
than
you
just
should
the
make
moon.
it obvious that Meredith set that spell off. That
Becau-
Zara sees it before she takes off.
Yeah, I just think she doesn't know what it is when it starts.
No, she doesn't know what it is. Yeah,
So
that's
what I
cool.
was saying. Is like she pulls a little card out of her pocket, sets it on the ashtray, lights it on fire,
Well, you have
and
to
walks away.
You have to
Yeah.
specify
And when it turns to ash, they all start to shift.
if it's causing them to be feral, because there are plenty of people that even with the moon can control it.
No, I don't think feral. I just think exposed.
Okay. Well, that's
No?
plenty enough because that'll be pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
That'll rise tensions in itself.
I'm not saying a shifter bar. I'm saying a bar with both humans and shifters in it. A biker bar, maybe, with big, burly dudes.
Why couldn't she do it citywide? Use this.
Well, I don't think it.
use the
A
streets.
spell
Well, I
that
think
big?
I think it
use
has a
the streets
radius.
itself
I,
as a giant sigil.
I think it
Little
probably has a
sacrifices and
radius.
fires all
It's
around.
not
Yeah,
just
that's
within
a
the
big
bar, but
spell.
it's not the whole city either.
Or it could
You
be a
know,
whole ward or whatever.
a whole block, 2 blocks, something like that.
Whatever they call that.
Oh, that's even bigger than I would imagine magic
But-
could do.
Well, it depends,
Depends on the level of the sacrifice and,
and how
what kind
powerful
of
she
juice you
is,
put
and
into
she
it.
is, after all, a demon.
Wait, who's this?
Meredith.
Doppelganger Mary.
Oh, well, I don't know that. Does she know magic?
That depends.
I mean, she was kind of just born.
But she doesn't
Does
need
Meredith
to,
know
She
magic?
doesn't
No,
need to
she
have
wasn't
magic. All
just
she
born.
needs to do is buy the spell and set it off.
That's true. She could have been given any number of things.
Now
They could
that
all
that
be
could've
she
given.
bought
can
it.
do. That
She could've
can do.
bought it.
If it's like pull this pin, extend this piece,
And maybe she
set
needs
this
a
on
drop
fire,
of shifter blood to do it. So she charms a shifter into a drop of blood.
or just stab somebody.
Sets off.
Or she just
oh, yeah.
runs.
She could initiate it by
Oh,
stabbing
I was gonna
somebody.
say she just runs her hand across a guy's face and
Scratch.
slashes it with a fingertip, with her nails.
There you go.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
That
be
should be
complex.
enough to set off a spell that she purchased.
That's interesting. All right. Well, I'll work on it, and hopefully I don't disappoint. So,
I think it sounds
'cause
cool.
As usual, I am quite nervous about this.
Well, I dig your blimps idea, though.
So.
It's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, but that's just a glimpse.
it doesn't matter. It's, still
It's
cool.
pretty big. I don't know if you're gonna get to all that in one story.
That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know either. I'll do what I can. I don't know. It seems exciting, but it seems like a lot. It's overwhelming. So.
I mean, it took me 8 pages just to do
Well,
a stupid gnome fight.
yeah, but like we have been trying to do these past few, you can always build the basic bones of it, and we can build out
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
when you read it.
All right. We'll work on it. You guys have anything else to say?
I am good.
All right, so as usual, come join us next week, and go check us out at the Dark Stormy K1 on Twitter,
The dark and stormy nights.home.blog.
the Dark and Stormy Nights.podbean.com, and do we have anything else?
No, no. I think
Soon
that's
we'll
it.
be starting a new website, so
We will be. Yeah.
and we'll be are we moving everything from .home.blog to the new website, or are we going to leave part of it on home.blog?
I'm gonna leave .home.blog up for a while, and I'll put the links of
I mean,
where
it's
we're
already
moving
paid
and
for.
everything there.
So
Yeah, so it's all good.
okay, cool. We'll talk to you next time.